Hello and welcome to another episode of Monifactory. In between episodes, I created a couple more machines here, an advanced lathe as well as a laser engraver and an advanced canner here. I also created an advanced extractor here so that we can extract some other metals. The extractor and the canner were useful for creating the thermal expansion cell here as a intermediary power storage device. Here it's just some lead, electrum, and the vibrant crystal needs an autoclave, but to extract the liquid vibrant alloy you need an MV extractor or higher. So that's what the MV extractor was for, but then you also need a canner here to can it, and I just decided to go ahead and make an MV one as I had a few more parts for MV. But we'll be using the laser engraver and the lathe here shortly. And then I've kind of run some extra models here, created a few, and just been getting some extra materials. Alright, so one of the things that I have worked to get set up here is a nitrogen production setup here. It produces nitrogen as well as oxygen and then some potassium here. We've got drawers set up. The oxygen is set to void overflow, and then the potassium drawer here has a void upgrade on it. At some point I might put a storage bus on there if we need the potassium. I think we might need it a little bit later in the game, but right now we don't really need that. The nitrogen has a storage bus on it with a priority of 1,000, and then the oxygen drawer here has a priority of -1,000, so that it's used before the other oxygen setup over there, just to prevent as much voiding as we can. And then here we have the main item here, an electrolyzer here. We basically electrolyze 5 saltpeter dust and get the nitrogen, the oxygen, and the potassium, and this is done at a minimum of MV. That goes into the node network and then gets sent to the drawer and the 2 super tanks. We have here our method of getting the saltpeter is the thermal elemental model here. We're supplying that, and then that comes into the loop fabricator and then converts into, I've got it selected to convert into saltpeter. So if we look at hostile neural networks here and then find the thermal matter, you can see that one of the options here is saltpeter. You get 16 dust per every elemental prediction. So it's relatively decent setup. I might at some point add more of these if we find that we need more nitrogen, but this works for now. Do have an overflow, void overflow here drawer for the overwhelming matter, and then we have an interface here with the pulsating prediction matrix in it stocked that gets pulled in and set into the simulation chamber. And I went ahead and added a storage bus over here on the overflow drawer for the prediction matrix. So this is the extra overflow that gets sent to both the power generation as well as just for other general use. At some point I might consider adding another drawer on top of this at an even lower priority than the others, just so that the power production never runs out of the prediction matrix, but we'll leave that for later. And then here we have the redstone flux coil. I have this one set up here and have a high flux RF coil augment in it, just to allow for more energy transfer. These things are relatively cheap, so really doesn't matter too much. The reason why I went this route is just so that I could have power coming into the loop fabricator here and the simulation chamber on the same network as the item cards are. Generally speaking, I don't like to mix the power network and the items, just so that I don't accidentally end up with something in a machine halfway across the base because I forgot to throw a filter in something. So this cuts down on the number of nodes that are needed. Otherwise, I'd have set a second set of nodes here for the item transfer. So on setups that require much more power, I probably won't do this, but on smaller setups like this, I will probably end up using the redstone flux cell quite a bit. So, but yeah, so there you can kind of see it in action. But that is kind of what we've got here. So at some point I will probably set up a laser network to kind of just temporarily pull from the super tank here and then pop into the fluid input on the blast furnace here, just so that we can run the quicker recipes. So because most of the kind of the basic blast furnace recipes have a plain recipe version as well as a nitrogen version that usually is a bit quicker. So, but that'll kind of be it for the overview for the nitrogen. I tend to like to set up these setups kind of like the oxygen and the sodium persulfate maybe a little bit earlier than I need it, just so that they can kind of build up a bit, and I tend to find it makes things move a little bit quicker in the long run if you just take a little bit of time to kind of think about what you're going to need in the future and just kind of prep for it earlier on. Not too early, but before you need it, and it definitely kind of helps save time later on. So that is it for this setup. Now we need to look at getting into the circuits, the kind of the second rung of circuits here. So for that, you can see we need like the integrated circuit here. For the MV circuit, we don't need anything, but for the HV circuit, we'll also need RAM. So we have worked on getting a ruby lens as well as an emerald lens prepped and ready. Let's head back to the main barn here, and we will grab those lenses and get some wafers cooking. Alrighty, so the lathe should have run the plate through. We get the lens and then a small piece of the dust back. You can also do this at LV with an exquisite version of the gem, but I opted kind of not to go that route. I already had access to MV, and it was just easy enough to create a lathe and get some of the items there. So we'll go ahead and let's see here. The ILC is the one that we'll need first, so we'll go ahead and pop that in there. I'll store the emerald one there. And then I need to grab the wafers from the system. I'd already gotten a bunch of silicon boules cooked up and then had cut them in the advanced cutter. You need the MV version in order to cut. You don't need the lubricant, but it does make things faster, so at some point we will get that set up. But we'll go ahead and we'll need a bunch of RAM in the future. I'm not sure how much we'll need in the IC wafer setup, but we'll go ahead and put half a stack in there to start with and just kind of let that run. It does take a little while, so we'll just kind of let that run as we go through the rest of it. We might pop that out for a minute and run the emerald one at some point here just to get some more of those. But once that's done, we'll go ahead and pop that into the cutter here and then start working on the first steps that we need for these items here. The resistors and the diodes here, You can get the SMD version, but that requires HV. We have the polyethylene that we need for it, and we've got gallium arsenide. We don't have the platinum yet though, but platinum is easy enough to get here in normal mode without having to go down the whole plat line. We should be able to get the platinum nuggets from the loot fabricator if we have a slime model. So I might get one of those kind of running a little bit here in between episodes just to kind of store up some platinum so that we've got enough for the SMD diode here once we get up to HV. The other item here, the resistor, you can also do at HV with it's definitely an easier recipe there. But for the moment, we still have to do the old version, so we'll just kind of, I've got a bunch of glue, so I'll run some of these items through and kind of get another batch of resistors and diodes here while we wait for the wafers to cook up. Alrighty, I have worked a little bit on getting some of the various different components that are needed for the next circuit level here. Built up some of the resistors, the diodes, and then did up some of the fine wire for the various different ones, 10 bolts and the like for both of these. The main issue, and the reason we probably won't get to the HV circuits today, is due to the transistors here. These transistors require the fine tin wire as well as silicon plates. We can do the tin wire, but we can't do the silicon plates yet. The silicone requires a blast furnace. You can do just regular silicon dust, but it's much quicker to do the 12-second recipe here. Just 3 silicon dioxide dust and 2 carbon dust, and the 2 carbon dust convert into the carbon monoxide, which you can, I believe, electrolyze here for your carbon back with a byproduct of oxygen. So the carbon dust is a closed loop and you get your silicon ingot, but it requires Canthal coils, and we don't have those yet. I have been electrolyzing some ruby and getting some chromium dust. I even did a run of some ruby ore in an ore washer here that I created to get some extra output for chromium. And then I have been kind of cooking up some Canthal dust here, but we'll probably need a little bit more than that. That probably, I believe that'll cook up enough for 1 blast furnace, but I kind of want to set up a stack of 4 blast furnaces there, a quad there, just to kind of make things a little bit quicker for us when we're cooking things up. So I also did take some wafers, and I created a sapphire lens and ran those through so that we could get the ULPIC wafers here. These are used in the various MV energy hatches and other MV items here, dynamo and medium voltage. So we will need those in order to make the MV energy hatch in order to cook Canthal. Yep, that one is an HV recipe, so we will need 2 MV energy hatches in order to cook the Canthal. So I'll probably cook up a bunch of the Canthal here in between episodes, but for the moment here we should be able to at least get to a couple of the MV circuits here, so we will go ahead and work towards that. I'll go ahead and get another batch of this stuff cooking up here. Alrighty, just put in another batch of Canthal dust, and then I have all of the items here gathered up for, should be 2 stacks of the integrated circuit here. So it requires the printed resin or resin printed circuit boards, the IC chip, some resistors, diodes, fine copper wire, and then 10 bolts, and that gives you 2 of the integrated circuits. So we should be able to pop these all in here, 1 of each, and then we'll just put the rest of them up here and let that cook up. And we should have these here. And then if we look at the quest book here, we also need the MV assembler first, as that is required to make the MV energy hatches as well as the Canthal coils. So let's go ahead and grab this for the quest. So let's go ahead and make up an assembler. So if we look for the MV assembler, advanced assembler, and I should have everything here, so we'll go ahead and grab that, and then grab some barrels, and then let's go ahead and make a storage upgrade here, if we can, for the bottom barrel. I usually like to have a decent amount of space in the bottom barrel, and then I should have a conveyor module, so we can go ahead and pop this upstairs, and we'll just go ahead and put it right here. Put things in there, upgrade, and then import. And there we go. So we've got that. Now we just need to get the MV energy hatch here. Go ahead and clean some of this stuff up. So we'll go ahead and work on the MV energy hatch here and probably start working on getting that set up so that we can at least let the Canthal cook up in the blast furnace in between episodes, and then hopefully get a get the second tier of MV circuits once this is done. So let me look at gathering up all of the ingredients that we need here. The medium voltage coil, that's just MV assembler, fine aluminum wire, and a magnetic steel rod, so that's not too difficult. And then just kind of basic stuff, the UL pick chip here that I got made up. So yep, let me get all of these things together and then we can upgrade the blast furnace. Alrighty here, so we should have enough of the ingredients here to make up some MV energy hatches. So we've got 2 of those, and then we will need an MV converter here. I'll go ahead and make a 4x converter. So the converter, alright, we've got the converter, and we just need some energetic alloy here. Alrighty, let's go get some Canthal here, and then we can get some of that cooking here in the blast furnace. And then we should be able to get, I think the first LV circuits there are almost done, so we should be able to get those, get a portion of those upgraded here to the MV here in just a moment. So let's see here, let's grab those out, and we will pop the MV energy hatches in, and then connect up the wires here, and we'll go ahead and we'll skip the battery buffer this time. Not really necessary right at the moment with all the power that we've got. It was more necessary when the power situation was a little bit less stable. So we'll go ahead and hook this up. And now we should have an HV, an HV blast furnace. So, let's see here, let's pull all of this stuff out, and we'll just stick this in here for the moment. And then let's look at what we've got here for cooking. So it's much cheaper if we go energy-wise. It's much quicker if we go with the nitrogen gas. So let's set this to circuit 2, and then we will pop the canthe in here, and then we will need to provide some nitrogen. So let's grab, for the moment, just do this quick and dirty here. We'll grab a node there, and then we will, let's see here, I don't have any on me there. That is the output. Okay, don't need to grab up too far. And actually, I think, let's see if there's still an issue. I know there was an issue on item inputs. Let's see if there, okay, not an issue with fluid inputs. There was, or at least used to be, an issue with these and item input buses, where it would actually pull the card out of the slots here and into the input bus, but I don't think that happens on fluid interfaces, but I know it used to happen on the item input interfaces. Alrighty, so that is full, and then this thing does need maintenance because I broke the controller and then replaced it just so that I could get the more blast furnace quest here that requires 4 of them. So I did make up some tape, some BrainTech aerospace tape. It is made using carbon fiber mesh and then some liquid polyethylene. In this case, I used the thin polyethylene sheets, which is the cheapest method and one that we have access to right now. But as you use different materials for the foils, you get more of the tape out of it. So we'll go ahead and pop one of them in there, and that should fix everything up with the maintenance and start things running. So we now have the canthe cooking up at 30 seconds, and let's just double check our power situation. Alrighty, so power is holding pretty well. So we're not really having to use a whole lot here, just for the HV setup here. So we should be good to just let this cook up, and we will see about that here in the future. We'll grab some for the quest, and then head back, and we should, I think, have the MV circuits or the LV circuits done. Alrighty, so yep, these are done, and then I've got almost everything that we need over here, so let me clean up my inventory here, and then we will start our next MV circuits. Alrighty, the last thing that we needed for the MV circuits here was some silver bolts, and I have been running those through the extruder there. You get quite a bit more instead of 2 from a rod, or if you put the rod through a cutter, you get 4. If you put it through an extruder, you get 8. So just kind of cuts down on things. I think if you used a lathe to get 2 rods and then used a cutter, it's technically the same amount, but it's more steps. So alrighty, let's see here. We need these, we need 1 of these. Go ahead and put these all in, and then we just need 1 of those. And let's see here, what am I missing? So we've got the resistors. Yep, all right. So we can put those in and those in, and I think we needed that one since we were doing a half stack. Yep, we only needed 1 extra stack of you, so clean this up here, and we should have our first, yep, good integrated circuits. So we'll let those cook up here. That'll probably be it here for this episode. So we will continue on and hopefully make our way towards the first tier 3 circuit here, the HV circuit. We just need to, next episode, we'll need to get some canthe coils made up, and then get some silicon ingots set up, and I might create a separate blast furnace setup for that individually here. So we'll have to see what we do with that. I might potentially just cook up some just for an initial batch of the transistors, and then look at setting up a permanent blast furnace for the silicon ingots here later, but we will have to see. So hopefully next episode, like I said, we get to the HV circuits, but that'll be it for now. So thanks so much for watching. If you liked it, go ahead and give the video a like and consider subscribing. Thanks for watching.